The Thunderbolts was brilliant. They did some stuff that was completely unexpected, at least for me. And I think that it has some very deep and important things to say to all of us. So, spoilers ahead. Welcome to Philosophy All Along. I'm a professional philosopher, and I like to use the tools of philosophy to help me understand the things I love on a deeper level. And boy, did I love this movie. All right, so there are 5 things that I think that this film does that are really mind-blowingly smart. The first, okay, maybe not the smartest, but it's pretty cool. The Thunderbolts name, period, is a cool idea because I was surprised. It's supposed to come from the comics, right? Thunderbolt Ross, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is usually the person that the Thunderbolts are named after. They completely jettisoned that and actually made it about Yelena's little soccer team from when she was a kid. And that, I think, brought a level of not just surprise, but a level of it being heartfelt and sweet and cute, but also about people, right? One of the things about the Avengers is you have like these gods and billionaires, right? You have geniuses, a couple of them at least. But on this team, you just have kind of, in some ways, regular traumatized people. So that surprise was then even further emphasized when they reveal that they're called the New Avengers at the end. And I think that that's just really smart. I wasn't expecting it, and it sets up the next film in a very, very fun way. Now, number 2, this is where we start getting into some of the deeper stuff. It's unabashedly political, but it doesn't alienate anyone by virtue of the fact that its politics can, from both sides of the aisle, be seen as opposing the other. No question in my mind that you'll see liberal viewers seeing this and seeing De Fontaine and going, oh, well, she's clearly a conservative, a MAGA supporter, right? She's willing to sacrifice all liberties in the name of security. But conservative viewers are probably going to look at her and see this mechanistic media manipulator who pretends to care, but was really consolidating power to herself. So it's very smart because what it gives us is an opportunity to always see the villain kind of no matter which side of the political spectrum you're on. Now, third, it's a psychological trauma drama, and that's really cool. It reminded me a lot of WandaVision. Like, we know enough superhero tropes at this point that if you just put out another superhero movie, it gets a little boring. We know, like, they're supposed to be called to action and they're supposed to face this villain and blah, blah, blah. This one was really deep, and it made us think about our own traumas. I don't know about you, but I was watching the movie and I was thinking about some stuff that I went through. But when I was a kid, I'm like, okay, here I am literally crying during the Thunderbolts. It was heavy. It was also funny, but heavy. Overcoming the villain in this film, in a lot of ways, is more about overcoming yourself. And that's really smart. And we're going to come back to that in a minute. It was deeply philosophical, and that's number 4. All of this discussion of the void and the experience of being in the void isn't just a question of generalized trauma and being sad, which is a lot already, but it's also a question of what we call existentialism, right? Which is simply thinking about existence. What does it mean to exist? Why do we exist? What are we supposed to be doing here? In other words, some philosophers and philosophy isn't just about things or actions, like, oh, what is this? And is there a soul? Which is all great and interesting, but it's also, there's philosophy that's about people and how we choose to live our lives. And so there's this really, really famous quote from an existentialist philosopher named Friedrich Nietzsche, who says, when you stare into the abyss or the void, it stares back into you. And so that problem of thinking about our traumas, do we bring them up? Do we push them down? How do we deal with them? Is absolutely essential. But notice that particular existentialist quote starts actually with the idea of be careful of hunting monsters lest you become one. When you stare into the void, it stares back into you. And so what I think about when I hear that is Sentinel. And there at the end of the film, when we have Bob saying, look, if I give you the godlike powers of Sentinel, the other guy has to come back too. So it's an inversion of Spider-Man, where normally we're told when you have great power, you better use it. But in his case, he has great power. That means that he shouldn't use it. And I want to do a whole video just about this. But if you think about it, what that means is in a lot of ways, they're not the new Avengers. They're the anti-Avengers, right? Because number 5, hugs. You get the complete abandonment of what has gotten very old, which is this major kind of Dragon Ball Z flying fight at the end of one of these films, right? We beat up the villain. But here we have one where the villain is defeated by basically accepting the villain. And everyone's facing their traumas together. To me, that's a reminder of the problem that the Avengers have at their core, right? The Avengers, what does it mean to avenge? It means you don't forgive. It's the opposite of forgiveness. Instead, you're going out and avenging. So here we have a movie that's telling us that maybe the solution to a lot of problems is hugs. And what I love about that is that brings us back to number 2 and how divided we are and the issue of politics. To me, I can't help but think that this film is saying that when you see someone else as a villain, by definition, they must see you as a villain, right? You become the antagonist in their lives. And we do it to ourselves, hence staring into the void, right? When you make an enemy, when you hunt others, right? You start to become that which you hate. Well, in doing that to ourselves, we start to hate ourselves, and we can't come to peace or joy or feel anything. We start to go numb, like in the void. It becomes a cycle of vengeance and pain. Okay, so those are my 5 things. Let me know what you think. What did you think was the most important part of this film? What did they touch on that I missed? Pop it in there in the comments. Please like, please subscribe. I have so much fun analyzing these videos with you. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful day.